It was a cold Monday morning in the city of Ridgeport, the kind of day when people walked a little faster and kept their heads down to avoid the biting wind. Life moved on like clockwork, everyone rushing, barely making eye contact, and disappearing into the hum of urban survival. In the heart of this fast-paced life lived a man named Elias Moore, a janitor at Greenwood Public Library. He was quiet, invisible to most, and always working in the early hours before the library opened. No one really noticed him. No one asked about him. And Elias never complained. He just did his job. Elias had a routine. He'd arrive by 5 a.m., sweep every corner, clean up after the chaos of yesterday, and leave just as the staff arrived. His presence was like the whisper of wind there, but not acknowledged. But there was something unique about Elias. Every day, without fail, he left a small folded note on the librarian's desk. It wasn't signed. It never said much. Just a sentence. A line. A piece of encouragement. Sometimes it read, "You are doing better than you think." Other times, "One kind heart changes everything." The librarians thought it was a staff member being nice. They never imagined it was Elias. One day, something happened that began to shift the energy of the city in ways no one could predict. A little girl named Mila came to the library with her mother. Mila was just 8 years old, but her eyes carried the weight of something heavier than childhood should allow. Her father had passed away 2 months earlier in a construction accident, and Mila hadn't spoken since. Not a single word. Therapists said she was traumatized. Her mother brought her to the library every afternoon, hoping books might reach where words couldn't. On a particularly gray Thursday, Mila wandered toward the far corner of the children's section where Elias had just finished cleaning. He was about to leave, but something made him pause. Mila sat alone, her fingers lightly tracing the cover of a picture book she didn't open. Elias noticed her. Not in a loud or startling way. Just noticed. He slowly picked up one of the origami cranes he folded every week and left on the return counter, a hobby he never told anyone about, and gently placed it near her feet without a word. Mila looked down, picked it up, and stared. Then looked up. Elias simply nodded and walked away. The next day, Elias left a small note next to the crane on the same table. It said, "Your silence is powerful. But your voice is even more beautiful." That was all. No one saw it happen. No cameras caught the moment. No announcement was made. But something shifted. Because 2 days later, Mila whispered her first words since her father's death. She looked at her mother and softly said, "Crane." The news traveled fast through the library staff. Everyone wondered who left the note. Who folded the crane? No one guessed Elias. He remained quiet, doing his work. But the librarian, Mrs. Hartley, began to watch more closely. Then came the moment that truly changed everything. One morning, Elias found a small envelope where he normally left his daily note. Inside was a thank you card. It read, "You changed my daughter's life. Thank you, whoever you are." Elias didn't respond. He simply folded another crane and left a new message. Kindness doesn't need a name. It only needs a heart. Mrs. Hartley found the message and was stunned. That's when she finally saw Elias folding another crane in the staff room one morning. She didn't interrupt him. She just watched. And then she did something Elias never expected. She took a photo of the origami crane, posted it online, and wrote, "Someone in this library is silently spreading kindness every day. We don't know who. But they reminded a little girl how to speak. And reminded us how to feel." The post went viral overnight. Within 24 hours, thousands of people commented, shared, and asked how they could help. Messages came from strangers offering donations to support the library. Schools reached out wanting to start kindness corners. A group of artists offered to create a mural on the library wall inspired by the story. And still, Elias said nothing. He just kept showing up. Cleaning. Folding cranes. Leaving notes. Soon, people began visiting the library not just for books but to see the table where the first crane was found. They left their own folded papers. Messages of hope. Stories. Poems. Children came in groups to read stories aloud, inspired by Mila's voice returning. The library transformed from a quiet reading space into a living, breathing center of community healing. Then something no one expected happened. The mayor of Ridgeport showed up. He asked to meet the mystery person behind the movement. But no one knew who it was. Until Mrs. Hartley gently took him aside and said, "He won't say it's him. But it's Elias." The mayor waited for Elias to finish his shift and approached him gently. "Mr. Moore," he said, "I want to thank you for changing our city." Elias, looking down at his mop, replied softly, "I didn't change the city. The city was always good. It just forgot." The mayor smiled. "Maybe. But sometimes we all need a quiet reminder." The city declared a new annual day called Silent Kindness Day. It wasn't about big speeches or parades. Just one day a year when people left anonymous notes of kindness around the city. Schools, shops, parks, buses, all places became filled with little folded paper messages. Elias never missed a single one. Neither did Mila. As the weeks turned to months, something deeper grew in Ridgeport. Homeless shelters started receiving anonymous donations. People began paying for each other's coffee. Elderly neighbors received surprise visits from teenagers offering to mow their lawns or walk their dogs. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But it was real. And it all started from one quiet janitor, a silent crane, and a little girl who found her voice. But the story doesn't end there. One evening, Elias returned home to find an envelope at his door. Inside was a letter from Mila, written in her own handwriting. It said, "You didn't speak to me. But you heard me. That made me feel safe. And that made me brave. Thank you for not asking anything, but giving everything." Tears quietly filled Elias's eyes. He placed the letter next to a framed photo of his late wife, who had passed away 5 years ago. She had always told him, "You don't need a crowd to make a difference. You just need one heart willing to listen." That night, Elias folded a new kind of crane. One with golden paper. He placed it on the library desk the next morning, along with a note, "For those who feel unseen. You matter. And someone is always noticing, even when it feels like no one is." Months later, a book was published called The Quiet Cranes of Ridgeport. It told the story of Elias, Mila, and the transformation of the city. It became a national bestseller. But Elias never signed a single copy. He asked that all the proceeds go to funding books, free meals, and therapy programs for children in need. Elias remained the same, quiet, humble, early to work, and always gone before the noise of the day. But Ridgeport would never be the same. Because kindness, once ignited, spreads in ways no one can predict. It sneaks into hearts. It rewrites pain. It builds bridges where silence once lived. And it reminds us all that sometimes, the greatest revolutions begin with no voice at all, just one silent act of kindness. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart,